Guys, welcome. It's final day. It's round number 5 and 6. I'm heading to the playing hall. I'm playing against Fide Master 20 to 15, so it's like only 30 rating points difference. So I prepared some lines, interesting lines. Let's see what he plays. He plays Sicilian or he can play Alpine. I prepared both, so let's see what happens. I'll see you after the game. Alright guys, so wild game in round number 5. Was losing, was winning. Final result is a draw, but yeah, heading to have some lunch, so see you soon in round number 6. Enjoy the recap.
It's a recap of round number 5. I was playing against Fide Master 20 to 15. Had again a wild game which I'm about to show you. So let's start. So I honestly was preparing, c5 of course, which was played in the game, and he also played at f6 in some of the games. I prepared some lines, so I was prepared for either of the first moves. c5. I mean, I wasn't surprised. I just continued knight f3, e6, d4 takes, knight d4, and we're going for so-called Kan variation. Bishop d3, and in the following position, in most of the games, he played bishop c5, which I was preparing, and I basically wanted to go for this line, just 6, and then just queen e2, and you know, white have a slight edge from the opening. The structure is of course not great, but he plays queen c7 immediately, and I was a bit surprised because I didn't expect this move to be played. And from now on I was playing on my own. Like, of course I know general ideas here, but yeah, my prep ended castle, knight f6, queen e2, bishop c5. That's the move I didn't expect at all. Like, I honestly thought d6 will be played and then we'll continue like a regular main line of Kan. But bishop c5 is something that I was very surprised to see, because after knight b3, bishop a7, I started thinking like, because usually when you have an opportunity to play e5 in Kan variation, and let's say the pawn is not on d6 yet, oh wait, the pawn is not on d6 yet, so it's you know, it's a good idea to play e5, kind of get the knight from f6, and if knight jumps to the center, which happened in the game, I continued calculating over and over again, and I was calculating moves like a3 with the c4 idea, but I just didn't like knight c6. Like, yeah, I have to protect, and yeah, here black can play bishop b8, and now I have to play f4. Nothing critical, but the position is getting very spicy. Knight e5, you know, so this is where I started thinking, like, what will I do after knight d5? Because, you know, I don't want to play e5 and after knight d5, you know, come up with the move. So I calculated a pawn sacrifice, which I thought is going to be very interesting. So after e5, knight d5, I play knight c3, which is, I was a bit surprised that after the game, you know, I checked the engine and it's the first line of computer. The idea is simple, basically captures, and if now queen takes, I mean, this is just super bad queen. Yeah, from afar I was calculating something like bishop a3, but it doesn't give anything, so bishop d2, and then, you know, I had this bishop b4, bishop d6 ideas, so more or less, you know, yeah, interesting position to play down a pawn, but you have a huge development, and if black decide to castle at any point, it will be just a complete disaster on the king side. So instead he plays knight c6, attacking the pawn e5, and here again I had a choice of bishop f4, but bishop f4 I didn't really like knight e7, and now knight jumps either to d5 or g6, and I was like, I don't want to allow this to happen, because after rook e1, which I played protecting the pawn, now knight e7 looks very, very you know, out of place, because I played bishop a3 and bishop is coming to d6, black are not able to castle, and, you know, it's not a very good spot to be in for black pieces. He plays bishop b8, he puts extra pressure on e5, and I respond with queen g4, the best move in this position, attacking pawn on g7, and this position happened in 4 games before, and I want you to actually, I mean, the move that he made is just like, you know, it's like, it's momentarily I have like probably a winning advantage. I mean, at this point it's like 1.5, so it's very hard to play. Black had to play g6, and the idea of g6 is basically to not let black take on g7. Sorry, I had to drink some water. Gotta be hydrated. I just came from the round, so, and recording recaps for you guys. He played castle. Castle, and of course I immediately played bishop h6 because I'm at least winning an exchange. Now g6 is the forced move, and here of course I'm never taking an f8 myself. It's not the worst option you could do, king f8 and then I don't know, queen h4, or I considered f4, but you know it's definitely not best considering that, let's say in the following position I played the best move, which is queen h4. But so the point here, guys, is this bishop on b8 can't really get to the defense, so it's very important to use dark squares. I played queen h4 and I have a straight idea. I want to go queen f6 and I want to checkmate on g7 in 2 moves. So black played knight d5, and here if I play queen f6, which I actually saw, we can just agree to a draw after knight f3, king f1, knight h2, king g1, knight f3, king f1, and the problem is I can't do anything. Like, let's say I go king e2, there is queen e5, and I'm actually losing the game. Not losing, but you know, it's getting very tough to play. So it would have been a draw, and if I take, unfortunately this doesn't work due to queen h2, king f1, and queen h6, and here I'm losing, despite, you know, black having all the pieces on last rank. They have extra material, they'll win the game. So I played f4, and again I calculated it, and here the point is, let's say knight d3, queen f6, queen b6, I gotta play knight d4 and checkmate is coming in the next move. So what other lines I wanted to show you here? So f4, basically, yeah, bishop a7 is the best move which he found. And basically, yeah, let's say I play knight d4, it's not possible because now queen c3 and I'm actually losing because this comes with the check. If my king was on h1, that's a different story. I would play queen f6 and checkmate the next move. But here, unfortunately, if I play queen f6, this is just game over, bishop d4, and basically knight d3, bishop protects crucial g7, and, you know, it's just a collapse for white pieces. So bishop a7, I'm not going for king h1 either, because basically knight d3, and the point is if queen f6, oh, that's exactly what I wanted to show you. There is knight f2, king g1, and knight g4. And black are winning queen or bishop. Based on their choice, of course, they will take queen. So I have to play king f1. And at this point I was like, he will resign for sure. Like, you know, I'm taking an exchange, and this is, again, it's just like a blind spot. You'll see what happens. So after f6, I was like, what should I do? I calculated f takes e5, which is the best move actually. But f takes e5, so first of all, guys, this is not possible with check, because, you know, it's a common thing. Like, you see check and you're like, oh, it's scary, right? But nah, I mean, f takes e5, I was calculating rook f7. I was like, all right, black basically threatened to take on e5 next move and just, you know, some checks. But apparently I had simply takes f6 and after queen c3, bishop e3, which, you know, to me it doesn't seem obvious. I'm up a piece, this isn't developed for now. I'm just curious, just king g1, and if bishop e3, just rook e3, and rook is protected by this knight on b3, and yeah, it just, I don't know, I decided to take on f8. Now, I calculated a bit, I was like, alright, let's go for it. And here again, so I was choosing between c takes e3 or queen f6 immediately. Because queen f6, black can't take the rook because I play queen g7. And yeah, I went for queen f6 basically, and it was a wrong choice. Apparently c takes e3 was slightly better, and after king f8, queen f6, king g8, I go for h4. I didn't even consider it, and it's a bit disappointing. Like, I was like always kind of scared that, you know, potentially bishops are kind of pointing towards my king. I was like, might be a bit scary. But here apparently I'm just winning king e2. Again, not so obvious when you look at this position. Like, you know, yeah, when you see all these computer lines, you're like, oh yeah, I could do it. But when you see it at the board, it's a completely different story. It's just tough to play on. And, you know, I just realized again, like, classical chess is so tough. Like, people play well, and you put just so much effort into it. Like, you can't imagine how tired I am right now. And it's only been 6-round event, and it only happened because, like, 2 rounds a day is, like, too long. too much, especially against players like this. Like, you're playing against master level players every single round, and you have just to think out of the box. It's tough. Like, again, my comeback to classical chess is very difficult so far. But alright, I play queen f6, queen f4 now. It's forced as well, takes, and here apparently bishop h6 is best, which I played in the game. I was also curious what happens after bishop d6, but apparently it's actually... Because bishop d6, guys, I was choosing bishop h6 because I have this kind of, f-file potential in checkmate, but I was like, bishop d6, at least it kind of controls like both diagonals, right? While on h6 it controls only one. So, there are some exceptions. While this bishop on d6 looks a lot better, potentially, I mean, h6 is a better square as of right now. Knight jumps to d5, and here I realized that, it might be potentially very hard to play. I play c4, knight b4, and once again, I just couldn't find a good move. Like, yeah, I was calculating rook d1. I was calculating rook e4. By the way, I just want to see what happens here. Base d5, not even this. C takes b5, bishop b7, b4. Nah, this doesn't work. Yeah, I was calculating a lot of lines. Rook e1, I'm not even sure why I didn't. Wait, what if I knight c2, rook e2, yeah, knight b4, let's say, and c5, and rook is coming. And if b6, doesn't matter at this point, it's just like, it's all over. Yeah, so, and at this point I was like getting low on time, like I had less than 10 minutes, so I needed to move fast. Plays b5, and at this point I realized it's probably no longer better. Computer still shows like +1 advantage, but at this point I was like, nah, now I'll have to play very carefully to try to stay for a win. But after c takes b5, it's basically zeros on the board. A takes b5, king a1, and now I'm even worse. Yeah, like from the position, like after basically f4, which looked completely winning, and they thought he would resign, we got to the position where it's not so clear. Knight jumps to d5, and now black have surprisingly, very, very active bishops. King d2, bishop a6, rook e4, rook c8, rook f1, b4, and I played rook a1. You know what my idea was? I was like, nah. At this point, I was like, I want to agree to a draw. I don't want to play this anymore because I might lose. Computer says rook f3. That's what I was calculating. I was like, nah, here I have to find rook g4, which I didn't see. I plan to go rook f1 back. And that's kind of the same position we got in the game. Because after rook f1, b4, rook a1, bishop b7, I go back rook f1. I was like, man, I wish he could play here and I would just go this and we would just repeat moves. But of course he has more time at this point and he decides to kind of play on bishop b8. And yeah, I mean, potentially, guys, these bishops are very dangerous. So very complicated to play, especially with being so low on time. Rook c4. The idea of rook c4 is simple. If rook c4, rook f8 is a checkmate, so rook goes to 8. Now knight jumps to c5, bishop c6, and here, unfortunately, this move doesn't work due to bishop e5. The point of this, if rook is 6, rook f8, right? And if basically d takes e6, there is rook c6. So of course it's not possible. Knight c5, bishop c6, I play rook f2, and it is almost a move which is, it is a blunder, like technically, because here, I just missed a very, very simple nuance. Was getting low on time. I didn't know what to do. Like, computer says rook g4, and rook g4 just doesn't make sense. Like, you move your rook somewhere where it's just like, what is it doing over there? It just doesn't make any sense. So I played rook f2, and after bishop b5, rook h4, I realized that now my knight is in huge trouble. But I was very lucky that I had this knight e4, but now I have to defend this position. I'm down a pawn, opposite colored bishop endgame, knight is a monster on d5. He plays quite precise. I mean, not precise. Rook e7 right now gives me some chances, but at this point, like, black plays very simple. Knight e4, rook f7, trying to get here. I played knight d6, and this is almost losing. So apparently I should have played rook h3 and trying to go for trades. Knight d6, forking, rook f2, king c1, bishop c6, play g3. And Guys, I want you to try and find the best move here for black, because I saw it, and I was surprised he didn't play it. Because I was like, he'll play it, and I would probably just resign in a few moves. But I probably know why he missed it. So the winning move here would have been knight c3. The point of knight c3, I'm not able to take on b4 because knight a2 is coming, and I can't play rook f4. That's probably what he was calculating, but here he had knight d2. He was probably like, alright, I gotta trade, because otherwise it will be a checkmate on f8. And I was very lucky he didn't see this. King d1, I forgot to discuss it with him like after the game. But yeah, this would have been a win for black pieces. And unfortunately, after knight c3, the point is... The point is, if I decide, let's say, to play rook c4 or something, there is bishop a4. Not bishop a4, sorry. Rook f1. And apparently, this is losing a piece. And if I decide to do something else... I mean, there is really not much. Let's say knight c4, I was even calculating bishop a4, and there are some checkmates, but apparently I have knight d3 still holding. So, not so easy, but again, it's just like rook f1, king d2, rook d1, king e3, and then e5. e5 is again not a very easy move to find. Rook e1, king d4, like, you gotta calculate very precisely in order to win this position. But he played g5. After g5, I was a bit surprised. I apparently had rook h5, and now again slightly better. Bishop g5, and again he had this knight c3. Instead, he goes for king g7. I go knight e4, and now I was relieved. Knight e4. I played knight e4, and I offered him a draw. He decided to play on for a couple of moves. Rook e2. Bishop goes to d2. Now putting some pressure on b4. Knight e3, knight c5, knight f1, and we agreed to draw. I could have continued playing on, but it's just like, at that point, we're low on time. Doesn't make sense continuing this further. It's just like, it's tough. Like, as you might see, we both were missing back and forth chances, so draw is a kind of fair result. Should have converted this, no excuse. Like, as you might see, like, some positions I'm playing are just so complicated. It's been a rough event, honestly. Like, but the games at least are very exciting. Like, I didn't have any boring games. Yeah, like London System on round number 4, go check it out. But all other games are just like absolute madness on the board. And it is what it is. I'm 2 out of 5. And going into the final round, not the best result, of course. I was playing against another kiddo with black pieces. The recap is coming tomorrow, so stay tuned. I hope you enjoyed this one. Let me know in the comments what do you think about the games, because I think they're exciting. A lot of educational points, a lot of mistakes, even on this level, as you might actually see. But yeah, rough event. Trying to be better. Hopefully we'll play more and more. Canadian Chess Championship is coming in April, so that's going to be a very exciting one. Hope you enjoyed. See you in the recap tomorrow. Bye bye.